Presenting the Brick House Podcast. The Brick House. Here comes the boom.
Welcome back to the Brick House Podcast. My name is Matthew Brick, and today I'm super excited for this podcast episode. I'm sorry for the late timing on this episode, but let's get into it. So the basic gist of today's episode is I want to share. I read through the Gospel of Matthew, and I wanted to share a little bit of what's important to me, what I had learned, and let's get into it. So first off, my name is Matthew. I'm reading through Matthew. I think that's pretty cool. Wow, right? I don't really have a plan, right? I'm looking through here. For people that don't know, Matthew is one of the four Gospels, who had written down what they saw, like their testimonial eyewitnesses of like their encounter and their perspective on Jesus. And Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the four Gospels. Each one does share similar things, but then yet they also show their own perspectives with Jesus. And I've read through some of the Gospels, like I think Matthew and John, but and I've read little pieces here and there, but I want to read the four Gospels. Like if I want to know about this Jesus guy, I might as well have to read about Jesus. So I started in Matthew. I actually just finished Matthew today. I've been reading like one chapter a night. And so, yeah, let's get into it. So I'm just going to talk about some stuff that I highlight. No real plan with this. Let's just get into it. What I find so interesting, we'll start off with this because I feel like it's been on my heart, but the Beatitudes, right? Like a lot of what Matthew writes down and like is what Jesus has said, right? I was watching through The Chosen, but like Matthew, it specifically points out how Matthew is like the scribe in a way for Jesus. He is paying attention to what God is saying, what Jesus is saying. And this is like, and a lot like, if you look through Matthew, a lot of like the topics are like, a lot of it's parables. If you don't know what a parable is like a short story. It can be like taken literally, but it's also a metaphor in a way. But like Jesus, throughout Matthew, Jesus brings up many different topics and many different themes. But I want to start off with the Beatitudes. I'll read through it. And this is like so like countercultural, which is something why I underlined it and I felt connected to it. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For the same way they persecute you, the prophets same as they persecuted the prophets who were there before you. I kind of just jumbled that mumbo jumbo, but the Beatitudes, it's just interesting how like blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who mourn, blessed who are meek. Like those are like things that maybe sound like a little interesting. Like why would Jesus? Because at this time specifically, like Jesus, the Jews believe that their Messiah is going to come down as this king, as this like strong military figure, and then for this guy who not only comes down and like accepts everyone and like washes people's feet, he doesn't condone everything, but he came, like John 3:17, he came to like John 3:16, he doesn't come to condemn the world, but to savor it through him, right? But it's just this, it must have been interesting for him to have been said, like, well, these are the attributes that are blessed, not the ones that we always think of day to day, like courage, strength, things like that. Let's see. This is a big theme, right? Love your enemies, right? This is like Matthew 5, verse 43. But you have heard it, and this is Jesus said, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, for they may be children of your Father in heaven. See, like that's also countercultural. One thing, like a theme that I'm getting just in these two things, are this idea that God is coming down to set this kingdom, right? Christ has come down to set this kingdom that is countercultural to what we are living through, what they were living through. To love your enemy, right? Enemy is such a strong word, like especially as a soon-to-be 17-year-old guy in high school, like how many people can you actually say are your enemy? Like, but there are people I haven't gotten along with, and right, typically, and I've felt this, like the feeling of wanting to get justice or feeling of getting revenge, when God is saying love your neighbor, to forgive them. I think someone, I forget if maybe it was Matthew or someone asked Jesus, no, it was Peter. Peter had asked, how many times should I forgive someone? And he says 7 times 70, right? Like, or something of that sort. Like, yeah, you have to deny yourself in a way and really forgive. And that's something I'm working on. But that's interesting, right? I think. But then again, there's a theme later on. It's like, it's this idea also to forgive, because, God forgives us every day, right? You can't go a single day without sinning or judging or this or that. I know I can't. So, that's an encouragement right there. Like, if I'm able to be forgiven, I should at least try. It's not going to be easy, especially if someone's really wronged you, but to try. We'll go over a few more. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I do. I would love to do more just in the word, more just sharing stuff with you guys. I'm not great at this, but I love it. Matthew 6:19. It's Jesus talks about treasures in heaven, and how he says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up yourself treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, for the thieves will do not break in and steal. For your treasure is there. There is where your heart will be also." I kind of, like, again, I'm reading fast, so I might go a little quick, but it's this idea that, like, this is something that I really am trying to come to, provision in my life and wanting to grow, is this idea that, like, what is important in your life? Because, man, like where is your love, right? Where is your heart? Your heart is, I like that last line. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Like, and I get it. There are a lot of things in our day-to-day life that are important, and you can't always, it takes so much tremendous faith, right? Sometimes when you're in, maybe let's say, God, thank you, God, like, I've never been in this position, but, like, let's just say hypothetically you are in a struggling financial situation. Like, how are you supposed to, like, serve God with your money when you're fearful that this might be your last paycheck? Or, like, I don't know, but as a person who does, right, I'm very blessed. I can at least think, okay, like, when something doesn't go my way, like, okay, was it really that big of a deal? These are just thoughts that come to me when it's this idea of, like, what's important to you? Are you, like, you don't get that new car, are you going to be okay or not? Like, but no, yeah, that was one thought that I know I've shared this on previous episodes. I just want to touch on it. But later down in verse 25, Jesus just talks about do not worry. Do not worry, and this is interesting. Do not worry what in your life what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body or what you will wear. Like, isn't that interesting? Like, especially as a teenager who goes to a high school, um, you know, like I think of this, your body and what you will wear, because I never have to worry about a meal, and God, thank you, I'm so blessed. But that's interesting, right? Like, guys and girls, they struggle with this, but like, and me, but like, you know, you're not supposed to worry, and like, that's interesting. Because I feel like a lot of it is like, okay, if I'm not looking this certain way, I'm not good enough, or if I don't wear certain clothes, I'm not good enough. So that's just interesting that Jesus says that. And why, when I keep bringing up interesting, is it's just, he has a point. Like, what he's saying is powerful, and it's just something to reflect on, because, man, like, if I could, like, and I think this is something we all hopefully wish to get to. I know I do, but like, this freedom of not caring what other people think, and like, like, sure, you want to be healthy, you want to be provided for, but like, wouldn't it be nice not have to worry about what other people think? And like if God says you are enough, then to believe into that, like, how cool that would be. Throughout Matthew, there's a few themes talking about like true and false disciples, the narrow gate, the wide gate, end times. Like, are you going to be a sheep or are you going to be a goat? It's just really, I find that interesting that Jesus, he talks about that stuff. And I think, well, I want to like, um, I'll just, verse 13 of 7, chapter 7, Jesus says, enter through the narrow gate. And I think he, like, now that I've grown a little more in my faith, and now really truly, like, okay, I have given my life to Christ, what I've realized is this narrow gate is Christianity. Like, the decision to be a Christian, that is the narrow gate, and like to follow Christ. And it's not easy. It's not. And like, I would love to find it, but it's like somewhere it says, like, Jesus says, like many, like many like want it, but only few are chosen, type deal. Like, only very few people in the scheme of things can really like to go through this path. And I don't go through this path easy, but I'd like to think that I'm trying. I'd like to think that I'm moving, you know. But yeah, let's see. I'm looking through it. I'm just looking. You're on the ride with me. Let's get this. I mean, throughout Matthew, there are just miracles that Matthew is writing about how Jesus just performs these like feats of miracles of healing, and like like releasing demons, or like not casting away demons, healing. Yeah, no, that is amazing. I might have shared this verse before, but I really like it. It's Matthew 11 verse 28. Come to me who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I mean, that's pretty like explanatory. Like, it's just this idea, like, yes, God, this path, this narrow path that has been, right, you're either going through the path that everyone else has taken, or you're taking this narrow path. This path is not easy, but yet his yoke is easy, his burden is light. So that's some good news right there, right? There's the parables. If I had to say what my favorite parable would be, so my favorite parable, and this is not like, there's many, but I found this interesting. Matthew 20, the parable of the workers in the vineyard. Basically, well, I'll read the first few lines. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire workers for his vineyard. So this vineyard is kind of like the kingdom of heaven. And it's this idea that I find interesting. Like, so he hired like people who weren't doing work. And a parable is, we don't know if this truly happened or not, if this story is like accurate, but it's meant to show a point. It's meant to be teaching, right? A lesson. But Jesus is basically making this story as like showing that there's this man who owns this vineyard, right? This man, he decides to hire many different workers throughout the day. One, let's say at like 5 a.m., 11 a.m., and right before closing type deal, right? And yet they all got paid the same. And then the people that had been there longest from the morning time were like, why would you pay the same when we've been here working all day? And he says, like, don't I have the right to do what I want with my own money? Or are you envious because I'm generous? So the last will be first and the first will be last. Like, that's interesting. So the last will be first and the first will be last. I could go many different ways with this, but I think it's like, dude, and I think it teaches this idea of maybe gratitude. Like, I think like these parables, like you can learn different things through what Jesus is saying, which I think is so cool. But what I get from that is like gratitude. Like the fact that each of those men got paid, right? It's this idea that heaven, like, it's not so much about me, why, like, and I think it's this idea of like the first will be last and the last will be first. If I'm going about it for me, I'm going to be last. Like, because like, if you can imagine, like how I imagine it, if you're cutting in front of the line and you're trying to be first, right? You're doing it for yourself. Like, there's that saying, those who laugh first will laugh loudest, something like that. But it's just like being grateful for the fact that like you don't deserve heaven at all, but yet God chooses us and like takes us, and we are his children. But yeah, I don't know how all these things are going to lay out when it comes to dying and death, but it's good to know that like God sees those who are last, right? That's what I also get from this. Like, God sees those who are not favored by society, not popular, not the outcasts per se. So that's good, right? You want a God that, let's just say, I would want a God that who is not me, right? That's good. There's so much in the book of Matthew, and I'm sorry for babbling on, but I wanted to make an episode about Matthew and just a little bit of what I love. Lastly, I'm gonna end it with that, and I just want to let you guys know on where I'm at with a lot of like with this podcast and just how I'm doing, and yeah, I'll make it quick. I don't always know, like lately I haven't been feeling directed by God. I don't feel as close to God. I know God's here all the time, and I see it in small glimpses. But with this podcast, I don't know exactly where God is leading me with it. I can tell you sometimes I feel afraid putting myself out there, and since I don't have a plan, like I don't know who I'm recording with next. It's just, and I don't know how many of you guys are actually listening. But my hope, my deep hope is that one of you guys are listening and can take something away from this. But I thank you. Like, I really do thank you. And I know God has taken me from one area of my life to the next. It doesn't mean it's not easy, but man, like, this is a big blessing in itself, the podcast. And yeah, I highly recommend getting the Gospels. I'm reading Mark next. So if you're interested, talk to me. Let's read it. Let's do a Zoom, or let's go over the phone and let's just read it. Let me know. I love you guys. That's the Brick House Podcast. Hope you had a little bit of entertainment and learned something new. Love you guys. See you guys next week. Love you. Bye.